thought I'd get branded up, you know. I should have put a printed one on, really, shouldn't I? But this is heat applied patch. I used the Target transfer heat press to do it, so I'll talk about that.
That's all right.
No, I really like it. It looks really effective.
Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to the Target Transfers podcast. My name's Andy, and I'm joined here by Molly today at the Heat Printing Innovation Centre, along with our special guest, Daniel Watson.
Daniel is the founder and creative force behind the affordable luxury streetwear brand FORmE, and today we're going to dive a little deeper into his story and journey and any questions that we want to ask.
Okay, so thanks very much for joining us today, Daniel. I really appreciate you finding the time for us. Because we really want to share it's our pleasure, honestly. So I really want to share your story of how you got started with your clothing brand. But I know that the creativity and passion that's behind your brand is not just something that started with your brand. It's been going for a long time. So we really want to go right back to the beginning today and kind of understand how you got to the point you're at today. So when did you first realise that the creative journey and creative outlet was for you? And was it kind of a long time ago?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an artist in general. You know, I've done a lot of different things, but it's always been something creative. I really wanted to do art literally when I left school, but there was no money them days. This is a long time ago. It's like 25 years ago now. So when I first left school, I really wanted to get into something with art, but there was just no money. I went into look into graphic design, and it just bored the death out of me. So I didn't bother with graphic design, and then I ended up being a joiner in the long run. I hated that. Then I was a gas engineer, and I hated that. And eventually, I found tattoo art. I started a tattoo business. I've now got one of the biggest tattoo studios in the UK, and I've got 7 artists working out of the studio.
And what's your tattoo studio called?
Vida Loca Tattoo Studio in Bolton. It started in my mum's bedroom, in my spare room at home, which is the way I tell everyone not to get into tattooing now. But that's where there was no apprenticeships really at the time. Nearly 19 years ago, I think it was. I bought an eBay kit, a really cheap, really bad eBay kit, and then I started tattooing my friends and ruined the bodies for until I got good.
So you tested all the bad ones out on your friends first, and then
we're still in the process of covering them up now, 20 years later. But yeah, when it comes to creativity, that's always been my bag, and imagination. And I've done quite a lot. I've done furniture design. I've got a couple of different clothing companies under my belt over the years. I had a sock company that just a couple of years ago that I just sold. So yeah, always creative, always something new, something innovative, and that's why we ended up in like where I am now with the NFT space, because it's all about imagination, art, and creativity. So that's what I'm all about.
And where does your creative inspiration come from? Is there a particular influence that you've had on yourself?
I just think generally, I don't know. We've had this argument a million times, whether you're born with it or it's something you can learn. But I think when it comes to creativity, it's something you're probably born with. Learning how to draw and learning how to tattoo or whatever is something you can probably learn. But actual creativity, I think, if you're an artistic person, photography, drawing, you know, all these architecture, there's all art involved in all that. I think it's something you're probably born with. My granddad was very, very good. All my artwork is signed JPAR after my granddad. My granddad never had any sons, and I wanted to carry his name on. So 10 years ago, I started signing all my art JPAR just to continue his name. But yeah, he was an engineer actually, but he was an extremely good artist. And maybe it's passed down. Maybe, you know, my mum's a good artist as well. So yeah, maybe it's passed down.
I think with stuff like that as well, you have to be passionate about it to be successful in that specific field, because obviously there's so much time and energy that has to be put into it, and people believe sort of the authenticity of your brand and what you're creating. So the fact that you're passionate about it as well probably has had a massive impact in, you know, your success in the different sort of businesses.
It's like my curse and my blessing, like my passion for things and obsessive nature. if I get into something and I really find that I'm obsessed with it, I don't sleep for a long time. So that's where I'm at right now with the clothing brand and the NFTs. It's just been 2 years of non-sleeping obsession because I'm so passionate about it. Like I said, I just get obsessed with it, and that's why it builds so fast. But that's why I burn out all the time as well.
But it takes the time and the hard work to build something like that, doesn't it? It's not a simple sort of overnight success.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, if it wasn't for the passion, it wouldn't be possible because you just wouldn't do it. I've not made a penny yet. You know what I mean? We've been 2 years in and we've still not made a profit. And we know we're not going to make a profit for a while. The brand's building, the sales are climbing, and everything's going well, but nowhere near a profit. And people need to understand that you have to be passionate. You have to be seriously dedicated to something like this to stick it through, because there's many ups and downs. Almost every other day there's an up, and then other day there's a down. So you just got to stick it through. And if you're passionate about it and you really believe in it, it doesn't matter if you're making money. You're enjoying yourself anyway.
At what point in your journey then did you sort of decide to add streetwear into the mix? Obviously, you've spoken about you've had a few different clothing companies before, that some of which you've sold, still got, etc. At what point did streetwear sort of make its entrance into your portfolio?
It's only been going now for it's around about a year. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's just over a year. We got, I'm trying to think when we went to, I think June 2021 we was at London Fashion Week, and we'd only been going 3 months, so it's not even a year. See, this is the problem, because I don't sleep. I have no idea how long when we launched or anything, but it's been a very short time. It feels like forever, but it's been a very short time. But before that, what got me into it, I started a sock company with a friend who was a big name in like recovery. He had a big following. He had a lot of people that was in recovery from alcohol or recovery from mental health problems and things like that. He had a big stage where he talked to them, and we designed a sock company where every morning you put your socks on the toe of the sock. There was a special message, like part of the 12 steps of recovery. And it was just a little reminder when you pull your socks up in the morning, and every time you look down, you saw your socks. It was a little pick me up. And I really got passionate about the project. He's a really good friend of mine, but we had completely different ideas of running businesses. So I ended up selling the company to him. He's still kind of running the company now, but that was something I really got passionate about, something that I thought, something you wear every day, something that you put on, something you see yourself in the mirror with, that it can massively help change your mindset. And that's why I got into clothing. I thought the same thing with the socks. I wanted to do it on clothing. I wanted it to be written backwards, so when you looked in the mirror, only you could read it, and it's only important what you see in the mirror. That's part of one of the sayings is, it's what you see in the mirror that matters the most, not what other people see. Do you know what I mean? So it's not real. What you see in the mirror is what's really important, not what everyone else sees. What you're wearing, it's how comfortable you are in what you're wearing. That's why FORmE is written backwards. When you look in the mirror, it says I'm wearing my clothes for me, not for anybody else. It really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. That's a big part. And it took me, I say it took me a long time to learn this, but I'm still learning it myself. A lot of the message of the brand is about reminding myself to stop caring what other people think. I think that's a big thing when you're launching a business. It's very difficult a lot of people try and fake it before they make it. Look how big we are, look how well we're doing. And it's all fake. And it's difficult to maintain because it's fake. It's not real. And I think you've just got to stop caring what everyone else thinks. Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, it's difficult. And it's going to, you're going to have a lot of downs. But it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. Just keep going and build and build and build. And that's what my brand's all about. I've probably gone on a bit of a rant there. I don't even know what to say.
That's all right.
I'll add to that though, just before we move on. I think customers as well, especially when you're launching a brand, can really tell the difference between someone who's launching it because it's their passion and their passion project versus just want to do it to make money. And I think people can definitely sniff out how authentic you and your business are. And if, like you say, people are sort of portraying that they're more successful than they appear to be, or they have sort of, gone a bit too far too soon, I think customers can definitely smell that, and they do tend to sort of steer away. So being really sort of genuine towards your customers is something we've seen a lot of success with our sort of small side hustles that are growing.
Yeah, just honestly, you build that community, they feel like they're building it with you. When people are wearing FORmE clothing, they know it's brand new and they feel like they're part of the building of the brand. They understand what the message is, they understand what we want to do with the brand, and they want to be part of that. If I was pretending like we was a massive brand, straight away, then there's no real connection to the customer.
I think you're right. And like you say, as you said a second ago, not technically made any profit yet, but you know that there's a journey ahead of it. And by being honest with everyone, it means that they can buy into that journey and go along with you and enjoy the journey themselves that way, don't they?
Yeah, for sure. It's like a community. All businesses like this, building a brand is a community-led project. Without a community, you have nothing. You know, you have one person buy all your clothing, you're not going to build a brand. It has to be. Yeah. That's all brands, whether it's clothing or whatever. You know, building a brand is about building a community and people that get behind what you're trying to do.
Yeah. So along with the kind of overall messaging you've got with your brand, you've actually got quite a few characters that you've built into the clothing itself, and it also kind of go along with the NFT project you've got. Could you tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind them and what they mean to you, and if you know the characters behind them that people are enjoying?
I mean, how deep do you want me to go into this?
You can go into lots of detail. We've got plenty of time. I think people would love to hear the story.
The story so far is like completely written out. We've written 10 chapters, so 10 comic book strips have been written of the story so far, but the story is way deeper than that. We're building into the NFT project is about building an animation series, and people that buy the NFTs will own the characters that will be in the animation series and get paid almost as actors to be in the animation series through their NFTs. The 3 characters that we've got are the main character. These are all based on myself in a sense. Basically, like I feel like everyone relates to all of these. So I've got Chester, who's the main character. Chester is a big brute, strongest monster of the basically all from a place called Monsterverse. The brutes are used for security, and they're like almost like the gladiators. They fight for entertainment. And Chester has escaped Monsterverse, come to Earth like the other 2 monsters. And why he's here, he doesn't want to be that life. He doesn't want to live that life anymore. So he's all about positivity. And he's a big, scary guy. And someone meets him, he looks a bit scary, but he gives you a nice big hug. He's a positive guy. He's really friendly. And he's completely opposite to what he was on Monsterverse. And it's the same with Louis. So I end up really deep on this story, but Louis
I'm interested.
Louis is a creator on Monsterverse. The creators, there's 3 different tribes: the creators, the brutes, and the gorms. So the creators are the tech geeks that ended up sat in the bedrooms getting obsessed with computers and the new metaverse and computer games, and they ended up developing 6 eyes because they could see 6 screens all at the same time. And they got because they got so obsessed with computers and that world, they never left the bedrooms, they never left the houses, and they became embarrassed to leave because of what they developed into and the 6 eyes, and there was a completely odd looking character, and they became embarrassed about who they really was, so they hid behind a screen like a lot of us are doing today for social media. People will put a filter on every picture and try and hide behind a screen and be somebody they're not, because in that world you can be anybody you want to be, especially the world we're heading to, like with the metaverse. I mean, that's a big reason I built the whole brand of people hiding behind somebody they're not, you know what I mean, pretending to be someone they're not, and scared of being themselves. And where true happiness lies is completely being comfortable with being yourself, and then you make real friends because they know who you really are. I'm not going too deep, but so basically he escapes. Also part of the story is that these 3 monsters escaped together, working together, and Louis was embarrassed about the way he looked in that Monsterverse. He would never leave the house, but his new lease of life when he came to Earth, he's completely self-confident. He doesn't care what anyone thinks. He wears what he wants, and that's a big part of the brand. And then Hugo is the Gorm. So the Gorms are like the slaves on Monsterverse, they're slaves to the AI that has taken over Monsterverse, and they live a really bad, sad life. So when he managed to escape and come to Earth, he's the happiest man you'll ever meet. He's the most grateful for everything he's got. He's only got 1 eye, but it's better than having none. He's really short. He's really clumsy. He trips over all the time, but he doesn't care. He's just super positive, super grateful. And I feel like if you read into the actual full backstory of each monster, there's a little bit of a bio in the clothing website, and the story of the monsters is being drip fed into the NFT website. If you read into the stories of the monsters, it's very relatable to problems that we all have. You know what I mean? Like I said, like hiding behind a computer screen and pretending like you're somebody, and not because you want to look like what you're supposed to look like. Do you know what I mean? And that's the 3 monsters. And then don't let me go too far into the story because it gets crazy. Chips and being chased by AI. It's a little bit based on the kind of like Matrix theory of how Monsterverse is 200 years ahead of Earth, and basically it's just showing us where we're going in the next couple of 100 years, where Earth is going to end up if we're not careful.
I think that's a really important message to get across, and the deep meaning behind each of the characters that you're portraying in the clothes has, like, there's so much more meaning to it than what people would initially think just visiting your socials or website. Specifically what you were saying about sort of people portraying a certain image now, and having to live a certain way or posting whatever you like online. It is that people post sort of the highlights of their life and not behind the scenes, like you say, the hardship of starting a business and the hard work that goes into it. And it's that instant dopamine hit when you post something brilliant and then people are liking it or commenting on it. And I think we need to move away from that and be more. It's kind of heading that way already, I think, with socials, but
the problem is it's designed that way. It's all that's the whole design of the whole program, is to make you get that dopamine hit every time you get a little like, and get you obsessed and create more content and get more attention so they can sell more ads. That's the way it's all built. And it's not as though some evil guy has built this, it's just human nature. It's just the way it's gone.
It's a smart business platform is all it is, yeah. And I find it amazing that sort of Instagram, YouTube, they create no content, but they're the biggest platforms in the world. And you think that's just, it's amazing how much they've progressed. But no, I definitely completely agree with what you're saying in terms of pushing.
We're our own worst enemy as humans, you know what I mean? Because it's just human nature, and people try and find somebody to blame. It's just the way we are. And it's this, like I said, this brand is as much a message to me every morning. Stop caring what everyone else thinks. Just get on and be happy with the way you look, the way you earn your living, whatever. Just be yourself, be happy, be positive, be grateful for what you've got, and be self-confident, and it massively changes your life. It's just a mindset, you know what I mean? It's completely.
I was just going to say, most of it is mindset, yeah.
And then obviously the one of the things that is really happening on social media and across all platforms now with the internet is separating us into tribes. Not they are separating us, but we are separating ourselves through the arguments now, like especially when it comes down to COVID and whether you was getting the injection or not, or whether you was wearing a mask or not. It completely separating us into separate tribes that completely almost hate each other now, just because of the way people believe in. And part of the story of the Monsterverse is when they come together and all 3 tribes eventually start working together, they create a superpower, and that's how they manage to escape Monsterverse. And it's the story is we need to work together. We need to accept everybody for who they are, what they look like, what they're into, what their beliefs are, what the political beliefs are, and just work together and accept each other for who we are. And that's the main overriding story of the Monsters.
I think that's really great, Daniel. It's a positive. It's looking towards the future, but approaching it in a positive way is great.
And it's funny. It's a funny story. Like when you see the comic books, it's a little bit. It's not a children's comic book, It's a little bit like almost like on the lines of like Family Guy and Simpsons. So it has those adult entertaining little bits of comedy in there, but it's not no swearing, and so children can enjoy it and get the message, but there's a lot of hidden little jokes in there for adults as well.
At what point did you realize that actually creating this sort of larger project, bigger than just the artwork or the clothing brand, when did this kind of idea come to you? How did you get going with that?
When I had my daughter, so I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and when I had Havana, I was just watching social media. I mean, I've been doing it for years, but watching social media, watching people get filters all over the faces, getting the lips injected, getting the cheeks injected. I'm like, why? I don't want my daughter to grow up in this world. I want to try my best, even if I can make a tiny little small change. I want to try my best to make a change. That's where the clothing line started from. But I had a vlog, which is where we got talking. I had a vlog on YouTube. I don't no longer do the vlog. I don't actually have the staff member anymore who did all the editing for me. But my very first video, one of my very first videos was talking about why I'm building the brand, and I'm going to try and change the world in some way. It's going to start with a clothing brand, but it's about the story and the message, and I don't know how I'm going to get it out there, but I will. And it's happened a lot faster than I thought. When I found NFTs, I thought, this is it. This is perfect for what I'm trying to do with the actual story and get the story out in mass numbers. NFT Project is perfect for it.
And for those that are kind of watching and listening, how would you describe NFTs to someone who's not come across them before?
How long have you got? So I literally 10 minutes ago, I ran over back to I've got the tattoo studios down the road, and two of the older guys that work there with me, I said, sit down, let me see if I can explain what an NFT is to you, if you understand what I'm talking about. And they kind of got it, but it's difficult. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. So a fungible token would be, say, a £5 note. 5 single pound coins are fungible with a £5 note. 2 £5 notes are fungible with a £10 note. So that's what a fungible token is. A non-fungible token, say for example the Mona Lisa, an individual piece of art, is not comparable value-wise with anything else in the world. And it's the same with NFTs. Every single piece is completely individual. It's a token because it's sat on the blockchain. So for example, Bitcoin and Ethereum, all these currencies, they're parts of a blockchain. And the reason they're so secure and the reason things can't be messed with, and it's because everybody gets full view of this. So everybody knows exactly which piece is in the chain. And if something tries to get altered, something tries to fake, someone tries to copy something, it doesn't work because it can't fit into the blockchain. This is me as almost a brand and a novice, like 2 years in this, but I still don't really understand it myself. You have to be a super tech geek to understand all that side of it. But when it comes to what NFTs are being used for, probably the way I'm doing NFTs, the best way to explain it would be a Pokemon set. So I've released 3,333 versions of each monster. Well, they're not released yet. They're going to be released in May. 3,333 different versions of Chester. Give me a second and I'll manage to show you a couple of them. What happens is I've created all different layers. Let's say, for example, some are wearing sunglasses, hats, chains, saxophones, some are smoking joints, some have got bongs in their hands. So basically all these different traits that get added to each, say for example, like it's a card, like a Pokemon card, it either makes your image that you buy rare or not rare. So the rarest ones are worth the most money. So when you go to the shop and you buy for example, a Pokemon set, you're buying them blind, you're buying a pack. It's the same with NFTs. You'll buy them blind, and then on a certain day, they will all reveal, and you'll find out which one you've got, whether you've got a rare one. Some of my NFTs, one of them, if you own, you end up getting the original Chester as an NFT, instantly we promise 20x your initial investment back on day one to buy Chester back, because we want to own Chester. So if you open your pack and you've got Chester in there, you'll get, say you paid £150 for it, you get £6,000 back instantly on day one. And there's tons of other prizes. As the projects drop, the prizes get bigger and bigger. In fact, I'm not going to do that because you probably won't even be able to see the screen. But basically, there's tons and tons of different versions of Chester, tons and tons of different versions of Hugo and Louis. And then some of them have got certain references like, where's that one? Like the Matrix. So that's I'm going. So that's Louis dressed up as the Matrix, and that's what they're what's called the beginning series. There's 40 one-off hand-drawn pieces that we'd launched to prove the concept of the NFT program, and they've all sold out instantly, and they're continuing to sell and go up in value. So now we're releasing 3,333 Chesters. I've gone off on a complete tangent. This is where you'll have to stop me. I guess it's so
interesting. I think it's really helpful because there's a lot of brands that we work with, and a lot of people that we've been working with, especially over the last couple of years, that kind of started brands from scratch. A lot of those have been kind of streetwear companies as well, but actually understanding that there's a larger sort of artistic picture and playground for them to work with this fantastic art that they're creating is, I think, really useful, because lots of the people that we work with, they start off, and the t-shirt business or hoodie business is a side hustle. So actually being able to add more elements into that without actually straying from the core initiative of what they're trying to achieve, I think is a really good idea for them to investigate and explore a little bit more themselves.
Just make sure that you warn them that they'll not be able to sleep for the next 2 years, because the amount of work that I've put into this that I never really anticipated. I'm not moaning because I do really enjoy it, but the amount of work that's going into this is massive. Like I said, I've completely written a full story, drawn nearly over 7,000 different versions of the monsters so far, hand drawn. Every different trait is completely hand drawn. Built a website, built a Discord channel. Have you seen Discord?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Discord is like a Facebook, but for almost like it was all based around computer games and stuff. It's becoming massive in the NFT world. So on Discord, basically what you'll do is contribute to the community. So if you're in there chatting and sharing and helping other people and bringing other people into the community, you'll get rewarded because Discord manages to track points, and then you get free access to the NFTs. You get them for free. So it's all about community-based projects and building community. Like I say, which is why it was perfect for the brand, because that's what I was trying to build. People that really believe in what we're trying to say and try and live the FORmE way.
Would you say that by starting the NFT project and kind of really going deep into designing lots of different versions of the characters, has it informed or changed the way you've approached the clothing as a result of that?
Yeah. That's a whole new thing to itself that's recent. Like, I looked at the clothing brand, I stood back and had a look at it, and I thought, I've tried to cater to a certain type of clientele to sell, and I feel like I've gone opposite of what the brand means. I feel like I need to focus more on the art and more on being loud and being out there. I try to keep it quite plain and simple, like quite strict, like FORmE writing and things. I mean, it's still selling well and people do like it, but it's not really putting the message out there as well as I wanted it to. So I've gone more down the streetwear brand with the designs on the monsters, and the new launches that are coming this year a lot more loud, a lot more out there, a lot more like, who cares what I'm wearing? I'm wearing it for me, not for anyone else.
Yeah,
it's probably important to have a mixture of both, though, isn't it? Because even though that's the brand's message, and as much as you want people to wear the clothing they want to be comfortable in, that might be a more basic design for some people. If that's what they want to wear and they feel comfortable in, then that's kind of representing the message at the same time, isn't it? So by catering a wider variety of products and designs under the same brand name, then that's kind of achieving that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're right.
So what would you say for anyone listening that might be thinking about starting a clothing brand, or anyone that's newly started a bit of a side hustle?
Don't do it.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you face from starting your business to now? Obviously, you've mentioned time is a big one, and the hard work and the passion towards it, but is there anything you've sort of come across that you didn't expect that you thought, if you're going to start a clothing business, then you should know this? Or
yeah, I mean, I wish I'd have prepared for this answer now, because there are a million.
Need a list.
Yeah, they go straight over my head, but I don't know. It's just, when I first started the clothing company, what I did, I looked at, like, say, for example, Facebook ads, what the return rate was and what the conversion rate was for an apparel brand, and built my whole business plan off the back of that. So I thought, we had an X amount of money to launch with, we'll be able to do this amount of advertising, that'll return, and every X amount of pounds we spend on Facebook, we'll get this X amount of sales in come back. So I built the whole business plan on that. That didn't happen, because you've got to build a brand first, and that's the most difficult, the longest, the hardest work. And it's just about consistency. It's just about sticking to it. And like I said, going through the hard work, going through the years of, sometimes maybe you get lucky. Maybe Justin Bieber sees you wearing one of the jumpers and he wants to wear one on stage, and all of a sudden your brand explodes and you cut out all that hard work. But that's one out of a million, So you've just got to be prepared to put the years and years and years of hard work in. If you're passionate enough about it, you'll enjoy doing it anyway. And don't expect to take over the world. So like I said, start small, start as a side hustle, build and build and build and build, and just be consistent. Consistency is the key, not wavering from, like, the message has been the message since the beginning. if I started to think, oh, it's not selling, it's only been 6 months, it's not selling, I'm going to change the message. You're starting all over again consistently. Just be consistent with anything.
And then you lose the authenticity of it as well, don't you? The brand name, the brand image, all of that changes midway. And like you say, you are starting from scratch again. So it's just...
And that's still one of the biggest things is what makes you different. Why would someone buy yours and not anyone else's? What's your USP? That would the biggest part of any business is what is your USP? Why would I buy yours and not buy anybody else's? And that's what I put a lot of thought and effort into.
And from a sort of practical point of view, is there any kind of lessons you've learned sort of around having a garment business? What do you say the biggest lessons you've learned there are?
I'm still massively learning for sure. Made a million mistakes, bought the wrong styles and tried buying cheap and lost a load of money by printing on crap. So I mean, my idea was always to go to luxury and higher end straight away, because it's what I like to wear. You know what I mean? So I like to wear quality clothing, and I wanted to go straight into that. And I know generally you would start off cheaper, build the brand, and be luxury down the line. Luckily, I had my own businesses and a bit of money to be. I got an investor anyway to be able to start. So I managed to start at luxury, but just knowing your audience, knowing exactly, like, say for example, you did start cheaper. Don't go straight in at high price. Don't try and sell 45, 50 pound a t-shirt when it's lower end quality, because you've got to build the brand first before you can manage to do that. And I'm that's where I'm at now. I've launched at high end, and to get people to pay £100 for a jumper, they need to really know who the brand is. And that's why it's taking so much money and so much effort and so much time to build out the brand awareness, to show the quality. And every time I get the clothing in front of somebody, this is probably a big tip. If you are going down the quality line, getting the clothes in front of people so they can touch and see the clothing is 10x my sales when I'm out and about. London Fashion Week was a really big one because we had a stand out there and we sold way more, and I probably sold more in that London Fashion Week show than I have the rest of the time all put together, because on the internet, especially at a high end, people are not prepared to pay high end prices until they know what the brand is and they can believe in the brand. And if you spend £100 on a t-shirt, you really want to be wearing a named brand. You know what I mean? So that's where we're still getting our name out there, so people are prepared to pay the price.
Yeah, it's repeat custom as well, isn't it? I think if you're, like you say, you start off with maybe a slightly cheaper blank garment supplier or something like that, and then you're trying to hit that price point of 45, 50, 60 pounds a t-shirt or jumper, and the first 10 or 20 people that buy from your brand pay that for the lesser quality product, they're not going to come back, and their reviews of your brand aren't going to be great. So it's, like you say, managing expectations as well, isn't it?
Yes, it's just the same as what we've been talking about. It's just start where you are. If you're starting off with no money, start off cheap. Don't expect to make any profit. Maybe even sell, if you've got the money, sell at a loss to get the brand out there. A lot of companies do that. A lot of companies start off, a lot of companies start off at a loss. You know what I mean? And prepared to sell at a loss just to get the brand out there.
And obviously, we know from watching your previous videos on YouTube that you're very much hands-on with the brand. Was there particular moment or reason that you decide to go and do it in-house rather than to go third party?
Just for the unique side of it and the limited edition. So when I wanted to do a limited edition runs with a company, a factory, the price was through the roof. I was like, so I'm gonna have to do it myself. If I want to keep everything like quite unique and limited, then I'll do that in-house. And I have things like 25 editions of certain designs that I'll hand sign. So that has to be done in-house, because if I did it outside and then hand signed it in here, the price would be through the roof, and I'd never make a profit on any of that. So I do it all in-house with the heat press. And I was scared when I first got the heat press and the transfers that the quality wasn't going to be as good. I was putting what I thought was a cheaper quality item, cheap quality print on an expensive item. It was nerve-wracking at first. When I first got into it and printed the quality, I think personally it's better than screen printing. It just feels smoother, it's softer, it's a nicer finish, I think. So sending them off to a big screen printers and paying through the roof because I was trying to have limited editions, I ended up finding heat transfers, and I prefer heat transfers now. A certain method of heat transfers that I try and do my designs around, and the feel you get from that, I like to leave a lot of t-shirt in the gaps, so it's not one big solid sheet. It feels, for me, it just feels a lot better. It feels like more of the material. So when I have, say for example on this design, if I had a black, I'd leave that out as transparent. So so it feels more like part of the t-shirt rather than a big shiny. But I'm surprised at how far it's come along, heat transfers. I mean, obviously, I remember heat transfers looking at sports kits and thinking, it's just cheap, all peels off in the wash over a couple of washes. When I got into these, I used Target and another company as well. But when I first found out, I was like, this is amazing how far it's come along.
It's come along. I mean, the company that we're part of, Styles, is actually celebrating 90 years this year. I would say that there's a case to be made that what's happened in the last 2 years with the progression of full colour transfers is probably one of the most monumental shifts in that whole 90 years. It's like you say, to do full colour stuff just wasn't there 2 years ago, and so now this kind of things have changed a lot. We're seeing that a lot with other streetwear brands that are kind of using ourselves for transfers, is that they're able to charge a lot more for their product because, like I say, the look and the feel is it's so much better than it was 5 years ago. Really, it's changed.
I'm confident. I really believe that the prints that we do are better than screen printing. I feel they're just a much softer, nicer feel than screen printing. I like it much better. Yeah,
that's generally the feedback we've been getting as well. So really pleased to hear that you're getting on well with that one. And that's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to get in touch with you, is because it's so nice to see people out there getting stuck in and taking control of the process. It's something that we always encourage people to do, because I think having that hands-on element to it is really, really important. You mentioned there sort of doing short runs because you kind of wanted to have it, make it a bit more unique. Is that something that you see as kind of part of the future for your brand, is actually doing lots of runs of 25, a bit like you have with the 3,333 editions of the artwork, that potentially you could have the same character but 5-10 versions in
that's the whole idea of the brand since the beginning. It's all been about being yourself and being unique, because if you are yourself, that's the most unique you'll ever be, because nobody else will be the same. And I wanted the clothing to kind of represent that. So obviously I'd never get away with just doing one of each design, because I'd never make a penny. So there had to be some kind of limit, and that limit will increase on certain designs. And there's some designs that aren't limited that are continuously pumped out, like the plain designs. But the limited edition ones, it's all about, so you're wearing something and nobody else is wearing it on, and that's the point of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything you've got? I mean, obviously, don't want to give too much away for your next release in May, but can you give us any hints or ideas of what you have lined up for that?
Yeah, so basically it's like based around the NFT project, and to promote the NFT project through the clothing. So it's all based around the monster stories, and it's all like graffiti writing. The idea was that the street monsters, they come over in the street monsters, because it's a streetwear brand, and some of the designs are awesome. So it's based around like that culture, and like I said, there's skateboarding in there, and music in there, and smoking weed in there. So it's based around that kind of street culture, which is exactly on brand. You'll enjoy the new prints. There'll be a while, because obviously I've got to get this NFT project over the line, but they're coming out very soon.
I can't wait to see them.
How do you actually design your artwork, Daniel? What sort of platform do you use for that?
I use an iPad and Procreate, and then I'll drop them into Illustrator and redraw them so they're vectorized in Illustrator, depending on if it's like a full design of the monsters, like I wonder if I've got any I can show you. A bit more of a detailed print like the actual monsters. Let me see if I can find one for you, just to show what I'm talking about. So like these, you probably can do, but I can't, because I'm not technically good enough to draw that on Illustrator. So I draw that on Procreate, and this is really difficult with which way do you go? So that would be drawn on Procreate and sent straight over to you guys as PNG.
Yeah.
Is that right?
PNG, PNG or EPS, either of them is fine for us.
PNG, I do them as PNG, and then this one, because it's a bit simpler, I do it on Illustrator, and that makes it vectorized, and I can make it as big as I possibly want. Then, whereas the other one, if I blew the designs up of the monsters, they'd pixelate like mad because they've been done on Procreate. Yeah. But it's literally all done by literally drawing on this. So that's my pencil, and I just draw straight on there. I got this probably maybe 10 years ago when they first came out, an iPad Pro, and it changed my life with tattooing. It saved me so much time. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's like drawing by hand, everything. Then your customer would come in and say, "Oh no, it's going on my other arm," and you have to completely flip it over, retrace it, start all over. With that, it's a button and it's done. It made me a fortune, that thing.
The artwork when you first started tattooing people, can you see where they've come to you and they say, "Oh, can you design me something like this?" Is there anyone walking around that's maybe got an early Chester on their arm or their leg and they don't even realise it?
But I've actually got Hugo booked in this Saturday. I'm tattooing Hugo on the first customer this Saturday, so hopefully it'll become a bit of a thing and we'll get some advertising out of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it.
It's just because people really relate to the story and what they mean, and certain people have been like, "Oh, I think Hugo's based on me," and like, "Oh, I think Louis is based on me," and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's really brilliant. So, if anyone wants to actually find your gear, where's the best place to get that from?
So the clothing site is. Make sure I get this right. I've got so many different websites. The clothing site is FORmEUK.com.
Yeah. And
the story and the NFT side of things is the FMS, the FORmE Monster Society, the FMS.io.
Okay, brilliant. And if they want to follow along on Instagram or Facebook, they can find you there as well, can't they? If they want to see the
Twitter Twitter's at the FMS.NFT. And don't ask me what the rest are. I'm no idea.
We'll put a link in the description so they can find you.
Yeah, I think Instagram's at for.meuk.
Okay, brilliant.
Do you want me to show you my setup? I was wondering if I could carry my laptop in.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I think we'd love to see that.
I think it'd be good if someone's setting up. It'd be good because I've changed this a million times because the way I've learned it. Obviously, in here is all my. This is my store for things that I've printed off in advance, and then in here, best way to get the angle in here, my heat press table table that I pack on.
Dan's got a lovely single air fusion there.
Guys, awesome.
And you've got the quick slip on it as well. Very well done.
I love it. Honestly, I got I had like a 300-pound heat press at first, one that you rag down yourself. And broke all these t-shirts. So when I got that, it's like, oh. But the nightmare was plugging the obviously the air compressor in. So I've got a line that runs up there through the ceiling. Goes through the wall. I couldn't have the air compressor in it. It's so loud, so it's in the other room.
That's the most unique setup I've seen for an air fusion so far.
And then you've got obviously all the stack of the blank clothing, and then the design. The designs are next to the print there.
Brilliant.
So that's the setup. Simple version of setup. It all comes in like. I wonder if I've got a box actually. Everything comes in really high-end packaging. Like I've got nice boxes. Comes in that.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, that's really nice.
And then inside the box is the tissue paper and the FORmE Monster bags as well. Can you see that there? Because I can't see the screen.
Yeah, we can see that. It looks great. Yeah, these details are so important, I think, to everything that you're doing. So it means it's a real experience just receiving the package in the first instance.
I was going to say, I think the packaging is one of the most important things. Like when I receive a parcel, the best thing is opening it and seeing what's like the whole experience of arriving it, opening it, seeing what's inside. I think that if it arrives in a nice box and it's packaged well, it just heightens the whole experience, doesn't it? And it makes you want to order again because it's like that same dopamine hit that you get when you receive, like when you versus.
Steve Jobs did the best job of that. Steve Jobs packaging, I think he spends more on the packaging than he does on the actual technology. So it's the biggest point is when you get an Apple product, it looks awesome. So that's what I was trying to go down. You get all the cards in of the bios of each monster on the back of the cards. It's just little extra touches like that. We've got collectible toys. So I've got a program running where you'll get it's not actually out yet. I've not promoted it yet actually. But I've got one of these which is gold Chester.
Yeah.
So I've got a gold Chester, and he'll be randomly put in one of the packs over the next couple of months. And if you get the gold Chester, there'll be a large prize attached to that, like Willy Wonka. Maybe I'll give you I'd bring you down here for a tour of the Willy Wonka factory.
That's a great social media campaign, though, for a bit of brand awareness on that, whoever finds it.
Yeah, the idea is to just get, just a bit of promotion out of that and get people buying and trying to get the golden Chester.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great idea.
Anything else you need to know?
No, I think that's it for now. I mean, I'm sure this won't be the last time we talk. It'd be great to catch up in the future once you've done your May release potentially, and we can see how you're getting on, see what more lessons you've learned. I'm sure that people would love to hear more about your journey that way.
Yeah, awesome.
Really like to thank you, Daniel, for coming on today. Really appreciate hearing more about your journey, how you're getting on, where you've come from, the lessons you've learned. Do make sure you go and check out FORmE, the clothing brand, and the NFTs. I think you'll all really like them. We were really wowed when we saw the artwork coming through our system and seeing the product that Dan has put out. It's really fantastic. If you'd like more help around heat printing, do come and check out our YouTube channel. We've got lots of great educational advice on there, tips and tricks, best practice for using heat presses. So I'd encourage everyone that's watching, listening to go and check that out. So thank you very much to everyone who's watching, listening, and we'll be back next week.